Hi everyone. Today we're going to be unpacking yet another Stoic quote. It's becoming a regular occurrence at this point. Today it's one from the big homie Seneca, and it goes a little something like this. He suffers more than necessary, who suffers before it is necessary. Alright, the homie Seneca dropping bars. Let's unpack it. Now, this one I'm a little bit conflicted about. I'm not going to lie. I understand what he's trying to get at when he says that you suffer more than necessary when you suffer before it is necessary. In essence, this can point to a little bit of anxious thinking. What I think Seneca is trying to communicate is that you shouldn't worry excessively. You have to remain calm in the face of, or rather in anticipation of, some future suffering that's going to go down, because it is inevitable. We are all going to suffer one way or another, and throughout our life. Suffering is universal, right? Now, there's different schools of thought as to whether or not that's a good thing or a bad thing. We're not getting into that with this video. We're just going to try to unpack what the homie said here. Now, I agree with it, with what I said in principle. It's not, if you're suffering more than necessary, well, rather, if you're suffering before it's necessary, you're suffering for longer than you have to, and nobody wants to suffer for longer than they have to. And like I said, this can point to some, certain anxious thinking. We all do it, but I think what Seneca is trying to communicate is that we should avoid that as much as possible. We should try to be as calm and prepared as possible, not jittery and worried. Now, a little bit of the issue that I have with this quote is that I do think that it is somewhat necessary to suffer a little bit in preparation for the trials that you have ahead. We all have heard that saying, short-term pain for long-term gain. And I really do think that that's a good maxim to follow, just because if you do so, when you should be prioritizing your comfort, if you choose to make yourself just a little bit more uncomfortable, if you suffer just a little bit, then at the very least the spear of suffering will be blunted when something huge comes your way. You're going to be ready for it. I'm not sure if Seneca was emphasizing to not be prepared. If anything, I think that's probably what he would have said. But yeah, that's one of the problems that I have with this quote, is that I don't think it builds in a mechanism, if you will, to say, you know what, if you suffer in the short term in anticipation of a big event or some huge uncomfortableness that's right around the next corner, then yeah, I think this might be a good thing, but maybe that's just my own excessive reading and bias into the quote. Yeah, and also it is tough to sort of build in that extra thing. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a Marcus Aurelius quote. It's going to be 3, 4, 5 lines long, and yeah, it's not going to be as hard hitting. It's not going to be bars. Let's just put it that way. But I do agree with the quote in principle. You shouldn't suffer unnecessarily, and you shouldn't worry unnecessarily. Essentially, nobody should be worried, because that's the worst kind of suffering. I do think, because you don't necessarily know what's going on. You start to get anxious. You start stressing yourself out over essentially nothing, and you're making a mountain out of a molehill. Now, I'm not saying that all worry is unjustified, but there are I think we all know people who are basket cases, and it just doesn't help to be a basket case. I think that's what the big homie is trying to say in this quote. But anyway, that's, at the risk of rambling, we'll put a pin in it there. Have I done this quote justice? What do you think of this quote analysis? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Drop a like on the video as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching.